Hi, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mark Hoskins from Big Stone Gap, Virginia. Born and raised there 57 years ago. Living in Atlanta, Georgia, Marietta, Georgia, for that fact. Teaching in Cobb County in the year 23. Enjoying life, even though we have this COVID thing going on. Making the most of it. Talking to my friend Daniel Montoya Jr. How's that?
Welcome to Sketchbook Podcast, a discussion about creativity, preparation, and effort with artists, creators, and educators. As always, I'm your host, Daniel Montoya Jr., and Mark pretty much gave his whole bio, so that's the end of the podcast, everybody. Thanks for listening. Now, Mark, you and I met. I don't know if we met like on the field or something, but you were a DCI judge for open class a few years, I think, and you got to see one of the groups I write for, and you gave us good scores, so that meant that I liked you. Unlike other brass judges, they just didn't get it. I don't know. Maybe they just didn't understand Kanye West. Do you relate to Kanye West, Mark? Is that why you liked us, or what?
Everyone is trying to really bring something fresh to the table. And I think that was that 17 or 16?
Yes.
No, that was 2000.
17 was the Kanye show, I believe. 17.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. And, being on the field and being an adjudicator, you want to make sure that, everything that's being presented, you want it to have at least good merit. Mm-hmm. And what I really dug about what you guys did, what you brought to the table, was that it was a fresh show. It was intriguing. I loved the way the juxtaposition of the two genres were working with each other. And the kids played well. And they really played well on the move. And they were enjoying themselves. And in the marching pageantry, we want to judge things that are being enjoyed from the performer's aspect, as well as being on the other side. So I remember, seeing that show probably 3 or 4 times, maybe at least 4 times that summer, and really not seeing it as being okay. They're just trying to put hip hop in the show and make something out of it. It was actually really, really well thought out and constructed both visually and musically. So I dug it.
That's very nice of you to say. Yeah, Matt Edwards did a really good job with the brass, getting that. He really liked you as well because you understood things. You gave good comments. So we really enjoyed seeing your name on the sheets. There were some we didn't enjoy. I won't mention anybody by names, but they did ask me why I didn't play Gold Digger in retreat, in critique, rather. I was like, that you can't. Why are you asking me why we didn't play Gold Digger? Just judge. Anyway, that's not the point. So I'm sorry about that. So
maybe that's the only one that they knew.
Yeah, I think so. I think probably because they sung it on Glee. He probably didn't even know Kanye sang it. He's like, oh, they sang it on Glee. So, whatever. But, hey, now you mentioned where you grew up. Where was the city, again, the name that you grew up in Georgia?
A little small town in southwest Virginia called Big Stone Gap.
Oh, in Virginia.
We had a claim to fame was Elizabeth Taylor when she was married to John Warner, the governor of Virginia.
Oh.
They came through on a campaign trail. And they stopped in Little Old Big Stone Gap, and she subsequently choked on a chicken bone and almost died in Big Stone Gap. Oh, my gosh. The illustrious Elizabeth Taylor.
Wow. Did they put a sign at that restaurant?
I happened to be fishing the Bread and Chicken House. That was the name of the place.
Wow. And so you were fishing, you said?
We were fishing. I think I was 13. It was either 76 or 75. Then they came through, and we were fishing. The river went right back behind that place, and we were just a little bit north of it. Uh-huh. And we had no clue what was going on. And then later on, we heard that she was in town and ended up at Lonesome Pine Hospital with a chicken bone in the throat.
Wow, I don't think that's in her Wikipedia page, or maybe it is. I don't know. I don't really know Elizabeth Taylor's bio, but that's interesting. That's so Virginia to Georgia. We'll get to how you got there. Okay. Mark, do you listen to podcasts? And if so, have you listened to this podcast before?
I actually have listened to a few. I've listened to, I think it's Alex.
Alex Blue the Fifth.
Did
yes,
one. That's Blue, and I listened to a little bit of Tony's.
Oh, Tony. So of those two, which one is your favorite?
I don't know if I could actually say that.
You can say
they
it's
both.
Okay. Yeah.
No, they were both intriguing. They both had great substance. I like both personalities. Alex is a little bit more on the quiet side.
Yeah.
And you get some verve from Tony, which is really neat.
Yeah, they were fun. They were fun. So I guess you can't tell me who your least favorite is, so that's okay. We'll say they're both your least favorite, because now this is your favorite episode, your episode.
Of course.
That you're on. So according to your biography, I hope it's not outdated because so many people's biographies aren't updated. You graduated from East Tennessee State University, but you mentioned to me earlier that your script to becoming a band director is a bit different than most. Can you we're going to talk about your drum corps marching and we're going to talk about teaching, but I'm curious about this story of yours that led you from college, or I guess from teaching or whatever. Like let's talk about the Mark Hoskins story. Here we go.
Well, I grew up in a little small town, and we all did everything. We played football, we ran track, we played baseball, we played basketball, we went fishing. Some of my friends went hunting. I never went hunting, never shot a gun. We did all of those things, and of course, we had a really good marching band in our town. I think we only had around 425 kids in our high school, and we marched about 125 in the band.
Oh wow, right on.
When I started out, my first year of marching band was actually in my 7th grade year.
Wow.
We had an elementary school and a high school, and the high school was 8 through 12.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So the band director that started me, Dave Tipton, who passed away years back, great guy. Dave Tipton always chose a few of his 7th graders to march in the high school band. Mm-hmm. And luckily he tapped me on the shoulder one day and said, Mark, I want you to try to march in the high school band, so we're going to work out transportation for you guys to get from the elementary school to the high school. So I remember that first band camp in 1970, I think it was 1975.
Oh, wow.
Going up and playing in the trumpet section in between 2 vets. I'm trying to remember both names. I do remember one, Mike Rogers. We called him Peanut. Great trumpet player. Peanut Rogers. And he had an afro, a white guy. Very slim. And played on a Benz trumpet. And I watched this guy, and I'm like, I want to do that. So I ended up having my mom purchase me a Benz trumpet in 78. I still have that trumpet today. Matter of fact, looked at it today in the office. Went through that, ended up marching, got to perform at Disney World in 1976, and just loved it all the way through high school. And once I got through high school, I ended up going to school at East Tennessee State. Mm-hmm. That was a late entry. I wanted to go to University of Kentucky, of all places.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a UK fan, but people in Southwest Virginia either go with Tennessee, UT. I'm not a UT fan. UK, I'm not a UK fan. Uh-huh. I'm actually a UNC fan.
Oh, okay.
But it didn't work out for UK, and I had to get into a school. And East Tennessee State was over the border, and I went over and rushed an audition and had the worst college band audition known to man. Just wasn't prepared. Uh-huh. Just stunk up the joint. But I went in there and I played third trumpet. Mm-hmm. And ended up going into the School of Music. I didn't know what I wanted to major in. I had no clue. And that's okay. I can play a trumpet, so I'll go into the School of Music. So here we go. I started as a measly third trumpet player in the college marching band, and had all these really cool people around me. And it just so happened that the night before we started band camp in college, I had just seen on television on PBS the Saturday night performance of the 1980 DCI championships, and was just floored by it. Now I'll talk about how I got into drum corps, but I was floored by it, and I was like, I need to do this. This is something I really want to do.
Sure, yeah.
So that right there started me to figuring out who I wanted to be as a musician. I did not like playing third trumpet, and I subsequently started breaking into the music hall after hours to go upstairs and practice. Mm-hmm. So I ended up going into for about a 4 or 5 month period, going in after hours and practicing, the applied stuff that my trumpet instructor, Horace Little, great man who's passed away as well, He said, if you're going to get better, if you want to do these things, you've got to practice. So I would put about an hour and a half to 2 hours of trumpet playing on the horn up through the middle of my freshman year. Well, at the end of the freshman year, I went from playing out of 45 trumpets, I was like maybe 42nd. I went from 42nd to the third chair player in the ETSU band program. And all of that came from just hard work and busting butt. But in the process of that, I ended up making the decision to audition for Spirit in October of 1980.
Oh, okay.
And a really dear friend of mine, Roberta Naff, who was a color guard member in the 1980 Spirit of Atlanta, she knew I was excited about it, and she just kept encouraging me and telling me I could really do it. And I had a bunch of people, bunch of friends, bunch of peers who pretty much thought that I was like just messing around. I wasn't going to do this.
Yeah.
So myself and about 5 other guys from East Tennessee State drove down in a caravan to Atlanta, Georgia, actually Austell, Georgia. Here's the ironic thing of this. I became the band director at South Cobb High School in 1998. I auditioned for Spirit in the same room that was my band office for 4 years.
Wow.
So that history, that little tie-in is really, really neat. But I went down and, 80 was a hellacious year for Spirit. Yeah. Both in terms of competitiveness and also what it went through traumatically with the death of Jim Ott.
Right, yeah.
And I have a little story about Jim Ott I can say, tell you in a little bit.
Sure.
But I went in and I had my audition ready to go. It was Fantasy Brilliant in the Arbins book.
Okay. Yeah.
And I decided that was going to be the piece that was that would best showed my trumpet prowess. So I remember getting that ready, and I remember my trumpet instructor in college was like, "Why are you playing this piece better than the stuff that I had given you to work on for class?" And he realized that I had a goal, and I told him, I said, "I really need to do this." And so he worked with me some more, and we got it ready to go. And I remember going into the audition room, and Jim Clark, who was an inaugural member of the Spirit of Atlanta and was a soprano player, was my judge. And I went in, and I wasn't nervous because, and it's something I tell my kids, that you're nervous when you're not prepared.
Right.
You're anxious when you want to get it done.
Yeah.
So I knew I was going to knock this out. So we went in, started playing, and lo and behold, about a third of the way through the audition piece, he stopped me. And I'm like, "Oh, come on, man. I'm getting to the good part."
Yeah.
And he stopped me, and he asked me to play my concert B-flat scale 2 octaves. So I played that. Said, "I want you to play your chromatic scale and go as high as you can." I went up to, at this point, my chops were going. I was never really a range guy, but I knew I needed to get that range going.
Right.
So I went up to an F. I surprised myself because it was effortless. They came back down, and we got through, and Jim looked at me, and he looked at my sheet, and he looked at me again, and I'm like, "You know what, I didn't get in. And he looked at me and said, "You're 335 miles away. Can you make it to rehearsals?" I said, "I'll make it to every damn rehearsal you have. I'll come by car, I'll come by bus." Yeah. And I did take Greyhound down to Atlanta a couple times.
Wow. He
says, "Okay, we'll see you soon." And that was like, I walked out of that. I think I floated out of that. And I went back through, and everybody was in the gyms. I think the holding area was for the locker room. Went and got my case. I went out to the gym and did my marching thing first. That's right, and that was fine. But I remember going to my case and sitting down, and my friends coming over and asking me how the audition went, and I was catatonic. I was sort of kind of because I had prepared myself for this audition. Yeah. And it came to fruition. Now, I couldn't tell them that I made the corps.
Right.
And I remember the Friday night, 2 weeks later, when we got our acceptance letters, and 4 of us made the corps. Oh. And a bunch of our friends, we all went out. It was this crazy, crazy night. And it was, we were elated. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And then Monday, each one of us who actually made the corps, we ended up getting rejection letters.
What?
Yes, somehow they got it crossed up. So we had our contracts to get in, and then we all got letters that said, unfortunately, we didn't make the corps. So immediately, I'm at the music hall and I'm making a phone call to the bingo hall.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh yeah, we made a mistake. The secretary sent out some false letters, and don't worry about it. You're in." So I actually have at home in Big Stone Gap, Virginia, I have my acceptance letter, and right beside it in another frame, I have my Dear John letter. So
Your Dear John.
I call it the Dear John letter.
That's wow.
So
that's a great story.
that's how that happened. So I didn't get into my script. So I didn't follow the same script as some of my peers.
Right. Yeah.
I had a little bit too much fun in college, and I ended up basically taking forever to get out.
Sure.
Now, in the middle of all that, I ended up teaching, learning how to teach, learning how to teach band camps and things of that nature. I left tour with Spirit of Atlanta in the middle of the year. That divorce is just, I call it a divorce. I didn't leave very happily when I left in the middle of the tour in '86.
Gotcha. All right.
And I came home, and a friend of mine said he actually marched with us in '82 and '83. His name is Mike McConnell. Very, very good friend of mine that lives in Kingsport, Tennessee.
Okay.
And Mike McConnell called me and said, "Hey, there's a friend of mine that I'm doing some low brass work with, and he would love to have you come work with the band." And Martin Dickey is that band director who is now at Nations Ford, or maybe even a new school in South Carolina. Okay. Was at Fort Mill for a while, then went to Nations Ford,
right.
And then it's just opened up a new school. And I owe everything in terms of getting my foot in the door of teaching to Martin Dickey. He allowed me to come in and work with his kids at David Crockett High School, Davy Crockett High School in Jonesboro, Tennessee.
Uh-huh.
And they had no one darker than me there. When I came to Davy Crockett High School, I was the dark guy.
Uh-huh.
So, but these kids respected me, and they listened to everything I had and had to tell them. And in 1990, this band program ended up being the Class A champion at the BOA Regional that was held in Johnson City. We missed finals by like 0.4 of a point.
Ugh.
There were only 66 members in the band.
Wow.
But these kids played the 1984 and 85 Blue Devil shows. And Martin, one of them, it was all about drum corps. So these kids played La Fiesta. They played Pegasus, Everybody Loves the Blues, and Gingy. And I taught it the way I heard it, because I marched during those years.
Yeah, yeah.
So these kids ate it up. And matter of fact, one of the really strong trumpet players from that band just friended me on Facebook the other day. It was really neat to make that connection. But I ended up sort of sticking around, if you know what I mean, college. And, I had an academic scholarship. I didn't have a music scholarship. I had an academic scholarship. So I used up those years of that academic scholarship after my 85 year. And then it was like, Mom said, well, if you're going to go to school, you're going to go to school on your own merit. You're going to have to pay for this. So I didn't have a great job, and I knew that I could teach. And after Martin Dickey let me do that stuff there, a couple of years later, I ended up making a great reconnection with Bob Buckner. The great Bob Buckner out of Waynesville, North Carolina. And he gave me the opportunity to teach, or actually not teach, but to work with him through his music enterprise. It was called United Music Enterprises, if I'm not mistaken, UME, a blue shirt with that emblem on it. And he sent people out to do band camps. He would do 3-day band camps. Well, this was '88, so I'm into this longevity of trying to get out of school. Yeah. So what I would do, I would write drills or work with Bob and make money, and then in the spring I would go to school. So it would be a semester off, a semester on. Yeah. Semester off, a semester on. So I had to pay for my apartment in Johnson City and pay for school while on my own. Yeah. So I basically started a consulting business after 1988. And I was with Bob for a couple of years, and then I figured out that, hey, I can actually do this band thing. So I put my arranging skills together, which were a little, let's just say, I didn't learn from the book. I took the arranging courses that we had in college and listened to some really good friends and read some really strong books that helped out on the arranging side, and also used my ear to copy a lot of Jim Prime stuff.
Of course, yeah.
And convert it to marching band. So I ended up being able to write drill under the guidance of Bob, and started using my ear, and so I was arranging and writing. I was writing drill and arranging music. So I ended up having my own consulting business. And it became very lucrative. So I had bands all over the country. I owe a lot of my longevity of college to some really great band directors who really wanted me to come work with their program.
Yeah.
My brother, I call him my brother, Don Jaramillo from Etiwanda High School.
Yes.
And Rancho Cucamonga. I would have never met Don Jaramillo without the love and support of Bob Buckner. Bob allowed me to go. He paid for my tuition to go to the summer workshop when it was still held at Whitewater University.
Oh, okay.
University of Whitewater in Wisconsin. And so I remember this was the year of 1988, and I met Don Jaramillo. I met Eric Hefner, who is over the Arizona, the head of the Arizona marching thing out there. I met Denny Haig, who is now passed. He was from South Dakota, but a great guy. And I also met for the very first time Alfred Watkins. We were all sitting at the same table during the beer and broad, as they called it, the get-together that night. And here I am sitting with these guys, and I'm in awe of them all. And I'm there on a student package where they have the director's package and the student package, but I'm rubbing elbows with the Greg Bims of the world, and I'm rubbing elbows with L.J. Hancock, the great band director that was at Norton High School in Pennsylvania, and his name just left me, Scott Coder, and all of these guys. I'm meeting all these guys, and ended up forging an incredible relationship with Don. Don asked me to write his drill in 1990. And I was ghostwriting that show. I was numbering drill for Bob Buckner, but I was also ghostwriting when I should have been sleeping. I was actually writing the Etiwanda drill while I was also working for Bob. And I remember sending that out there. It was the first drill I'd ever really put on the field. And Don was like, you know what, this is cool, man. This is cool. And then the next thing I know, in 1992, I'm going out to work with the Etiwanda band program, the year that they broke into BOA Grand Nationals with the Mass show. Right. And I met one of my dearest friends, Paul Macaro, who marched Blue Devils out there. So my travels caused my longevity in school. So I would do this stuff basically call it feast and famine. I was feasting in the summer and the fall. Yeah. And then I would come home and struggle a bit as I was trying to go to school and getting my education. And as I told you today, what ended up happening, I really got tired of leaving band programs. Because I wouldn't go in for a week. I would go in for 2 weeks. Yeah. Or I had a program I worked with in Wisconsin that I would work with for a month straight. And we would win state championships, and then the day after the state championship, I would get on a plane and leave. And those relationships, those bonds that I made during that time, really caused me to want to teach. So I had to really work at getting the rest of my degree taken care of in order to do what I'm doing today. I caught a lot of grief from a lot of people, who thought I was wasting my time, and I had a lot of peers who were getting out of school in 4 and 5 years and had a teaching gig, and then 5 years after that they were selling insurance or selling cars, and I've been going at it since. I've been teaching, as I told you earlier today. I've been teaching since '86. Now, legitimately with a certificate, I've been teaching 23 years, but the other 15 in front of that, man. Yeah. It's been, however many years I've been working with bands around the country, and I have no regrets whatsoever. And it's given me the opportunity to, it's given me the opportunity to stand on that field last August on that Thursday morning through the evening and judge the very best marching ensembles in the world. Mm-hmm. And I'm still living off of that residual effect today.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Kind of a crazy story.
That's a yes. Thank you. You basically just answered all my questions. I don't need to ask you any more questions about your. That's fine. This is the best episode ever. Nobody's listening to me talk. Now I'm going to do some questions now that I think you'll like this question, Mark. I'm going to wait till you take a drink so you don't spit it out. You are one of the few guests on this podcast, though there have been more as of late, unfortunately, to actually like the Dallas Cowboys. So I have a few questions I'd like to ask. Number one,
the grief.
Why do you like the Dallas Cowboys?
It's a really simple thing. 1970. We only had one television in our house.
Okay.
And it was in the living room. And back in 1970, you had 3 channels. You had ABC, CBS, and NBC. Mm-hmm. And CBS and NBC were the two channels that showed NFL football.
Right.
And I remember the day we had gotten home from church. I don't know what it was. We had gotten home from church, and they came in from church, and of course we wanted to get away from church. We were like waiting to go home.
Yeah.
And we got home and cut the television on, and it was the Dallas Cowboys versus the Washington Redskins. And for me, when I saw the star,
right.
I saw that star, and that star was like, man, that's kind of neat, and the colors were great.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a Dallas Cowboy fan, and that's how it was. That's how I got started. It was about the look.
I see. Okay, and you've been tried and true since 1970.
Since 1970, yes.
Wow, so you've seen the Cowboys actually be good before.
I've seen the Cowboys, and actually in 1970 was the year that they were still said they can't win the big game.
You're right.
If you remember, 1970 was the year that they played the Baltimore Colts in the Super Bowl and lost.
Right.
Well, it ended up being the 71 Super Bowl. They called it the bungled Super Bowl because I think there were 8 fumbles in that game.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
I think it was 6 fumbles and an interception.
And they were all by the Cowboys, I'm sure,
lost,
right?
Yes. So I saw that, and then I experienced the very first Super Bowl win over the Miami Dolphins.
Right, yes.
And then we lingered, 77 was our last one with Roger Staubach. Mm-hmm. And then we saw the drought with Danny White.
Danny White, yes, that's right.
I broke my high school class ring the day of the catch with Dwight Clark.
Oh my God, yes.
I threw my ring and shattered it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and then
hardcore.
Really we really struggled after that.
Yeah. For a little bit.
All of the rest of the 80s was just like, just someone just drowned me or something. It was crazy.
Right. But then you were on top of the world in the early 90s.
Yes, when the triplets were drafted and that monstrosity of a football team was made, you know that we should have actually won probably 4 out of 5 Super Bowls.
Right.
Maybe even 6 out of 7.
They were really good.
So I have a love relationship with the Cowboys, and I'm a very loyal person. Even though I can't stand Jerry Jones, I can't stand him. I love my Cowboys. And this year we look like we might actually be something, and who knows how it's going to be.
I was going to ask you how you felt about Dem Boys' chances this year, if there is in fact a football season.
I like our chances a lot. Mm-hmm. We have a coach that has a proven record.
Correct. Against your
he's
Cowboys.
He's not going to clap a lot. Of course.
The clap. Course. He's not going to, like Jason Garrett, just clapping along.
Yes. Yeah, the clapper. So I feel good about that. I feel good about the pieces that have been moved and where they've moved them and how it works. Mm-hmm. Of course, we lost McCoy the other day. That's a big blow. Yep. But we seem to have a good stock on the defensive line, so we'll see how that works out. With the COVID situation, we'll see what happens. if anything keeps us from playing in the Super Bowl this year, it may be this disease. Hell, I don't know.
Maybe God doesn't want the Cowboys to be good this year, so
Yeah,
that's
just so bad. That's so bad.
Now, we talked earlier, and you said you have been working out and losing weight, but I'm going to talk about food because this is one of my favorite parts of the podcast where I ask people about food, and you've been all over the place, and you're in the South, so I'm sure your answers are going to be amazing. I would like to know about, first of all, your favorite taco, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and where you get it from.
My favorite taco. I just now ate 3 carne asada tacos this evening.
Oh, my God. Did you make them?
No, we have 2 places that we have not eaten out since March 13th.
Yeah.
So we do takeout from a local restaurant called Los Bravos.
Okay.
And they're amazing. And actually, one of the kids, one of the relatives of the owners, they were in my band program years ago.
Okay.
So we've been going there ever since we were married, and it's been really good, really good. So it's kind of ironic you say that because those tacos went down really, really nice.
But now I'm going to have some later on. Do you have a favorite burger place?
My favorite burger place. I'll be very controversial here. I've seen these the contests with Whataburger and Five Guys. I'm sorry, there's nothing better than the Double Double.
And where's the Double Double from?
Double Double, In and Out.
Oh God, come on.
In and Out, man.
I thought you were going to say Cookout. I thought that was like a big deal down south.
Yeah, our kids go to Cookout. I did it once. I was like, you know what? Never again.
Okay. All right. Well, this podcast is over. All right. Now, so Tennessee, Virginia, Georgia, what or where do you get your favorite barbecue from?
My favorite barbecue? A couple places. Actually, I did barbecue yesterday at a place I hadn't eaten at in a couple of months. My wife doesn't dig it, but I do. It's Williamson's Brothers here in Marietta, Georgia.
Oh, all right. That's good to know.
They established a great barbecue rib sandwich.
Ooh, I like the way that sounds.
3 big ribs on a toasted. Yes.
Oh man, I'm getting. I should have had dinner before this. I mean, I did, but it makes me want to have more.
With steak fries as big as your fingers.
Man, I've already had too many carbs for today. I might have to save some carbs. My friends make fun of me because whenever I ask this question of a person of color, I always go, I ask this question of everybody. Do you have a favorite fried chicken place, Mark?
I do, and it actually got usurped 2 years ago. I can beat down some Yardbird. I'm sorry.
Yardbird. Let me stop you there because when I grew up, my uncles would call it yard buzzard, and it's so rare that I find somebody that understands that reference. And I'm Mexican,
Yes.
so it's clearly not like I grew up with like a black family or something. But I love it when I hear someone say that. So thank you for saying Yardbird. But anyway, continue with that.
Yeah, so KFC was where it was. Everybody knew where KFC was. Mm-hmm. And I've heard of Gladys's Chicken and Waffles in downtown Atlanta and all that. I've never been, but I've heard it's really good. Mm-hmm. But for me, I like a little spice in my chicken. And once I got a chance to beat down some Popeyes, it was all over. I rarely, if ever, go to KFC anymore. Mm-hmm.
I do love Popeye. Spicy chicken, that's good. That's some good stuff.
Yeah, and that sandwich is the bomb.
Oh, all right. I'm glad you said that.
I highly endorse the sandwich.
Okay, that's important to know. Do you have a favorite pizza place? You like pizza?
I do, and I usually eat it once a week.
Oh.
Locally, we have quite a few places that are really nice. There's a place that we get from school called JJ's, which actually used to be called Saparinos. Okay. And the reason I know about that place is the former owner's son was in the band program and played a bass clarinet for a while.
Okay.
But we would go there, and Chris Romanowski would go there with me, and we loved the place.
Gotcha. All right. This is an adult podcast.
So I
continue. Sorry, my bad.
No, that's my bad. Go ahead.
No, continue about your pizza place with Romo.
Well, of course, Romo would have to have pineapple on his pizza. I didn't do that. I sampled it, and it's okay, but it's not my bag. Yeah, we would tear down some Saporinos, and now it's called JJ's, and it's the same qualities. It's great pizza. It's awesome.
That's great to hear. I'm really hungry now. Thank you for this. This is an adult podcast, so do you have a favorite spirit, Mark? If you do, in fact, partake.
I have acquired the expensive appetite for a nice single malt Scotch.
Oh, okay.
And if you notice my page, every now and then you'll get a nice little screenshot of a celebratory Scotch.
Do you have a favorite brand?
It's close, and it's I'm very much particular to Glenlivet and Macallan. The Macallan 18, you could pour over pancakes. It's that good.
I'll take your word for that one.
Yes.
Now, from the South, how do you take your iced tea, Mark?
Well, up until about June 30th, it was sweet as you can get it. And then I started, actually, I take that back. I started doing half and half a couple of years ago. I stopped drinking soda June 1st of 2015.
Word, yeah.
And I haven't had a soda since then.
Wow.
And then I actually stopped. I stopped with the full sweet teas and went straight to half and half. And on July 14th this year, I stopped sugar.
Wow.
Altogether. So now I'm drinking coffee with Splenda or some kind of sweetener. But I'm trying to drop the sugar. You know, I told you I've dropped like 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Just the sugar loss and exercise has really helped out. Do I miss that? I do. I miss the occasional sweet tea.
Right. And so you take your coffee black with the stevia? Is that how it goes?
Pretty much.
All right, that's fine. I take mine black with sugar too, so that's the way I like it. Now, you are the director of bands at Wheeler High School in Cobb County in Marietta, Georgia. So, first question, Mark: who writes your band music for the fall?
The illustrious Doug Thrower.
Oh God! So, I mean, the second question was going to go, why isn't it me? But I know the answer to that. Basically, why? So, okay. A third question.
Doug,
oh, sorry. Go ahead. Let's talk about Doug. Go ahead.
Now, Doug is a great friend of mine, and we've been working together. This will be year 14.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, this will be year 14. He started writing for us in 2005.
Oh, wow.
Yes. This is year 15. That's right.
Wow. That was before I started writing for Cobb County bands, but that's fine. Whatever. You don't need to talk about that. So how many directors? I'm always curious, because down here in Texas, I think we have 45 band directors per band program. But how many directors do you have at your disposal over at Wheeler High School?
We have two, myself and my assistant Anthony Higdon, and he was there 1 year before I got there in 2003. So this is year 18 for me and year 19 for him.
And then do you also have
a bit of a band marriage?
he's your work husband. And then do you have like your percussion tech / color guard person, etc., all that stuff?
Well, yes, we do. We made a percussion change this year. Of course, Chris Romanowski was with me back in 2005 he did like 3 or 4 years before he moved on to greener pastures. But we have a percussion director, we have a color guard instructor, and we have coaches as well that come in to do things. Right. That Texas model is really good.
It did all right. It does all right for a little bit, I guess. How many concert bands do you have over at Wheeler?
This year we're supposed to grow to 4. We still have 4 bands now, but due to the virus that came through and the lack of contact with our kids for 5 months, we were supposed to have grown to about 280 this year at total program. But we're right at 200 right now. We lost quite a few kids because of the inactivity over the break, and we're happy with the kids that we have, but we're lamenting the fact that we didn't get a chance to make that massive growth. Our middle school feeder is incredible. His name is Greg Denson, and has done an incredible job at East Cobb Middle School. And he was pushing out. He started 225 and 235 kids in consecutive years. And his 8th grade band last year was magnificent. So they were sending us 135 kids, and we ended up really getting about 85. We lost a bunch of his kids and some kids that were coming in from other areas. So bittersweet, but we're going to make it.
Yeah. So the last time, I guess, I don't know if you would have had quote unquote contest this spring. I don't know when school was shut down for you, but what type of literature were your bands playing for concerts and contests and whatnot?
I was actually looking at a piece of music just the other day, and everything that we deal with going back, it's like all of a sudden we have a little bit of memory loss from what it was like when all of this hit.
Yeah.
We were looking at the Alleluia. I can't remember the name of the composer of that. It's a vocal piece with their top group. We were looking at that. And we were also looking at a Julie Giroux piece, One Life Beautiful.
Yep.
And I can't remember what our opener was, our march. All of those thoughts go away. It's sort of kind of like they say, what were we going to play last year?
Yeah.
Or what was your show for marching band? You can't think back and remember what it was.
Right. Yeah.
So I'll have to go back and think on that. But our ensembles our top ensemble plays grade 6 college literature. You know, we do the Posey, we do Esprit de Corps, we do all that wonderful literature there. And our concert bands, our second band, our symphonic band, is a grade 4, grade 5 program, and our concert bands have been incredible the last couple of years. Our freshmen create our concert groups, so we've been playing grade 3, grade 4 material with them for festival. So we had some really good momentum going into that last week. We were 1 week away from going into LGPE last year when the shutdown happened.
Yeah. Oh, man. And then my last question, why haven't you played any of my music with your concert bands, Mark?
I will be looking into that, my brother.
Yeah. But you see, that's really what this podcast is about, is trying to
put me on blast.
Yeah, guilt people and play my music. So, Mark, I like to go through people's Facebook likes just to kind of see the kind of things they like. Some are embarrassing, some are not. You know, some are like, oh, I did that when I was in college, and that was like 15 years ago. So I noticed a few things. You like Music in Motion, which is the new venture between the Andys, Markworth and Ebert. Composer Andrew Lawson. Composer Tyler Arcari, or Arcari, forgive me if I cannot pronounce that correctly. Boy, you have a lot of composers' pages you liked. I noticed one person was missing from your likes, Mark.
Pardon me.
I'll
have to get on that.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't have my own personal composer page, so you're lucky on this one. That was a trick question. But if I had one, you wouldn't have had it liked. I don't think so. And then,
I promise you, I probably would have.
I'm going to create one just so everyone can have to like it. I'm not even going to update it. That's just going to, say thank you or something.
There you go.
And then you like the Director's Circle podcast, but yet you don't like Sketchbook Podcast, the very podcast you're appearing on right now.
Well, I haven't had a chance to get over and do that. You know, when you're going through Facebook, you get all these invitations to do this and that, and you're like, wait a minute, what is this?
Right.
So sometimes you get a little crossed up.
Well,
that's my excuse.
Yeah, I get it. I don't beg for likes. I'm not one of those people that uses all my friends and sends out massive invites. I want people. I want legit likes. So thank you for that. Yes, thank you. Now I see you drinking. It looks like you're drinking some sort of liquid water. Perhaps I'm assuming it is.
It is water.
Okay.
Mr. Cartier.
Now, do you? I don't know how many people get that reference, by the way. I would like to know your thoughts on sparkling water, specifically Topo Chico, if you have in fact ever had it.
I don't think I have had it, and I tried the sparkling water thing, and it doesn't sit well with me. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's too much effervescence or if it reminds me of carbonated water, which reminds me of soda, which I just don't drink anymore.
Sure.
So I think that might be the reason.
Okay, I got you.
Do you endorse it?
Topo Chico is the I drink regular water, iced tea, and Topo Chico. That's all I drink. Because like you, I gave up sodas.
Okay. Okay. Is it does it use sugar, or is it like a
No, it's
sugar substitute?
so the reason, I mean, I've always liked it. I've liked lime better, but the carbonation kind of satisfies my the getting rid of soda kind of thing. It has 15 milligrams of sodium, no protein, no carbs, no fat, no calories. So it's pretty. I don't want to say it's healthy, because that's clearly not what it is, but it's not bad for you. I'm sure it's bad for your teeth.
Is it refreshing?
Oh, it is the most refreshing. And I replace all my all the drinks that ask for club soda. I just use Topo Chico when I mix it together. So yeah, but I like it. Like I buy 4 cases at a time whenever I go to the groceries. So my wife drinks it, and my friends have drink. I'm not saying I'm a pusher, but let's just say that a lot of people like Topo Chico because I introduced them to it. So here we go. I think you can get it now in Atlanta.
Yeah, I actually saw it in the grocery store today after we got off the phone. When I went into the grocery store, I actually saw it as I went down that snack aisle.
Oh.
So I might have to give it a whirl.
Coca-Cola bottom, so you're supporting your home brew from Hotlanta.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So you said you keep it real. So we're gonna get real now, Mark. You've taught the Spirit of Atlanta and the Magic of Orlando Drum and Bugle Corps, but now you are a DCI judge. So what I want to do is I want to talk about what it was like for you going up performing in a drum corps from the South, and then teaching 2 Southern drum corps. I guess we'll call Florida Southern, right? And then now judging. So let me ask you this question: when you marched and when you taught, do you remember if there were a lot of other performers and instructors that quote unquote looked like you, or like the way I asked Alex Blue the Fifth or Tony Lyman? Do you remember? Was it difficult to be black in DCI as a member, as a teacher, as a designer? We'll get to judging, but what do you remember about those years?
It's funny you ask that. As a performer, and particularly in my 4 years that I marched, I was very much aware of people who looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also very much aware that I knew that I was different in that corps, particularly in spirit. I always wondered why we didn't have as many people of color in a city where the African Americans are very prolific. Yeah. And there were very, very good musicians in the area. Mm-hmm. I didn't know much about the surrounding areas of Atlanta, but I did know that the band programs in the Atlanta area were strong. Mm-hmm. So it didn't concern me, but it did lay in the back of my mind that why aren't I seeing other people like me? Mm-hmm. So I can't say it sort of kind of made me unsure or upset. Mm-hmm. I went along with it. Yeah. And this conversation actually leads to another conversation that we might get into a little later. Oh. As I went through, 83 was a year that sort of turned everything around for me. I went from being not a bit player, but I played mellophone, and in '83 I was given a solo in "We Are the Reason," mm-hmm. and I remember having a show in South Carolina actually, and I noticed a lot of kids who looked like me mm-hmm. that were in the stands, and we actually won that show. It might have been Columbia, I'm not really sure, mm-hmm. but we did the encore, and then after that show, these kids bum rushed me out of the stands after the what we call it, encore. Mm-hmm. And I sat there and talked to him for a bit. And this happened to me about 5 or 6 times in 84 and in 83 and 84. But they were very much enthralled that someone that looked like them mm-hmm. was doing what I was doing. So it made me I became more conscious of who I was in the activity. Mm-hmm. And I also remember seeing performers. I remember my good friend Larry Robinson, who I wish I could get in contact with him. He marched Bayonne in the Bridgman. Mm-hmm. And Larry was a baritone player in the Bridgman in '81, and I remember seeing him in '82, and then I didn't see him anymore. Mm. And you would be very much aware of the corps who didn't have that many people who looked like me. Right. So we sort of found each other. The guys that marched at SEV, we found each other. Mm-hmm. I remember the guys in Suncoast, we found each other. There was a couple of guys that marched in. Now these corps weren't even top 12. I had a bunch of friends that marched Florida Wave. Guys that we just sort of gravitated to each other and we hung out. And then in '83 and '84, there were a couple of people in cadets we became very, very close at that time, and we would get together after shows and talk and hang and all of that. But I didn't really become very conscious about my blackness in drum corps until I actually started teaching, or my position of color. 85 for Spirit was very, very. I'm not sure what the word is. It was telling. I was made to be aware of who I was a lot, and some of that happened with the people that I taught with, and some of it was made me aware of. I was made aware of it by places that we went.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
If with the staff, you know, you go into a truck stop to get something to eat, and then you would get the look. Yeah. Or you would see somebody look at it was always the look or the murmur or something like that.
Yeah.
So I became more conscious of it after I marched, if that makes sense.
Sure. Alex in and Alex in one of his episodes talked about critique, that he would go in and I think he talked about this a few weeks ago on Facebook, and somebody was trying to tell him that their interpretation of jazz wasn't correct, and you know that maybe you should go study jazz or something, unaware that Alex has a jazz performance degree from the University of North Texas, or so, you know, and it's just, he said that, you know, it was very telling, to use your words, you know, just especially when you go in and critique, you know, it did feel very. I don't remember the words, so I don't want to put any words in his mouth. But it definitely was an experience going to critique, and he still feels that way going in critique, because you know this leads me to this next question or next point, and this I say this for comedic effect, but you know during finals week a few weeks ago, you know a lot of photos, everyone's putting up their finals week photos, and a lot of judges put up like their collage photo of everyone who judged it.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, and it's fine, but what my joke was that it looked like the GOP interns' photos, because it was nothing but white people and then you, right? And so I don't know this, because I don't know every judge and I don't see every judge. Are you one of, or the only black indigenous person of color judge in DCI right now?
No, and there are four of us. Okay. Michael Davis out of St. Louis. Okay. Myself, Michael Thompson out of New York. And Ira Jenkins, who is
Ira's judging now, huh? Well. Okay.
Yeah, Ira.
And so are all those four? Are they music judges, or what are their captions?
Well, Michael's in percussion, and Michael's done a couple of open championships, and I think he did semifinals one year for Worlds. Okay. Ira is color guard, as well as Michael Thompson.
Gotcha. Okay, so you are the only brass judge of color, and Michael's.
Well, and then you got Al Lowe.
Al Lowe. Is he still judging? I thought he.
He will be. You know, he just went through some heart stuff this year.
Right. Yeah.
Al's there, and so is Ronnie Rios.
Ronnie, that's right.
Good brother, Ronnie Rios.
Yes.
And one more, Hugh Wynn, color guard judge out of New York.
Okay. Now, Ronnie and Albert have judged finals before, right? Finals week, championships. I think so. Yeah, I think for sure that. So you know, going back to sort of Alex's thing, you know, you go into the critique room, and if you're not there, you know, and Albert's not there and Ronnie's not there, you know, it's you're isolated. Like Alex is the lone. He's like he says, you realize real quickly how many people look like you in a room. And so I'm curious, as you've gone through everything, as a member, as a teacher, as a judge, as a designer, why do you think the percentage of Black Indigenous people of color in the judging community, and this isn't just DCI, we can expand this to WGI and BOA, though the numbers do increase a little bit when we go into WGI. You know, do you have some thoughts on why it is that way?
I'm not really sure. Yeah, I can only look at it in a way from my perspective. I didn't think I had the juice to judge, and I would tell people that. My supervisor at the time, and a dear friend of mine, Gary Markham, kept prodding me to judge. Yeah. I remember my last year teaching in 2005 at Magic, when I was the brass captain here at there. Gary would come to me and goes, "Mark, you need to be on the other side. You know what you want to say. You know how to teach. People will respect what you have to say." Sure. and it will make you a better teacher as well. And so finally in 2013, I just bit the bullet. I said, okay, I'm going to do this. And I remember trialing and sort of kind of like, this, I might be able to do this. So I think a lot of it has to deal with people just not willing to take the step into the door to do it.
Right.
I've told quite a few peers of mine who look like mine, that look like me, that you can do this.
Yeah.
You know what's up.
Yeah.
You know the activity. So jump in while you can. And I was afraid to fail. I was afraid to make some kind of odd take. You know what I'm saying? That was my big thing. Which I go into every show now like with trepidation. Did I say something stupid? Am I making sense? Did I make the right call? And so turning that around, I think for people of color or people who have watched DCI and see what you've explained, what you've described, I think we need to be prodded. I think we need to be encouraged. I think it's just we need to take that step. There are quite a few fantastic educators that are in the activity. Eric Prince could be a judge right now, I'm certain. Alex could be a judge right now, I'm certain. Now, I also understand the allure and the desire to be on the teaching side. Yeah. It's awesome. For me, I knew that I had to leave the teaching side because I was not, it's sort of kind of like you're trying to make a great meal, but you don't have the right ingredients. I always felt that way as an instructor. So I feel now that I'm giving something back to the activity that I was able to do, being able to deliver feedback and critique to ensembles to make them better. But as an African American, being in critique or being in that picture that you talked about of those 9 individuals up there in the booth, I love being that person. I would love to see more like me with me. I think there's got to be some change on a lot of levels, and that will open the doors for people to be there. Right. I don't mind being that person that stepped out and in the, I guess you could say, in the spotlight. But I wouldn't mind having some company, particularly on the music side. Yeah. There's some brilliant educators that could do the same things that I'm doing. And I'm very humbled to be there as well. So the stigma of being by yourself is great. Last year, I remember going on the field in Atlanta, my first regional, and having an emotional moment knowing that I was taking every African-American person who had ever marched drum corps or someone who desired to be in drum corps or had done it before, who was looking at me on that field in Atlanta. I had that I had that in my head as I was judging those incredible corps, and then it hit me before the last 4 corps that night, and when it was done, it was exhilarating. And then I remember having the emotional moment in the end zone at quarterfinals last year when it was all over. I went in the end zone and bawled because I had done that. It was like, holy crap, I just judged at quarterfinals of DCI championships. Yeah. And I thought of all the people that came before me doing that, and it was a huge, emotional burst for me. And Carl Nelson looked at me and said, "You're all right?" I said, "Yeah, man, I'm cool." I just had to get that out, Yeah. So I would hope that kids who have seen the Eric Princes that march and the people like Ralph Hardiman, who is just an icon in the activity, and the Jim Primes, the Jim Elvords, and all of those individuals, that they know that they can do the same things. They just got to step out of their comfort zone and go do it. Now, we've also got to be aided on the other side. Someone's got to reach a hand out and pull us through the door as we're reaching through, too. Correct. Yeah, because I've talked about this and I've counted. I think I messaged you a while back. I messaged Tony Lyman also the same thing, because I was trying to figure out the big name, quote unquote, the big titles, like the coordinators, the arrangers, the drill writers. There are more people of color that
tend to do the color guard and percussion. I mean, you mentioned Ralph Hardiman, and there are other big names, young and old. Derek Shannon's still doing it over there on Blue Nights, and but you mentioned Jim Prime, and it's like, okay, well, who else is there? And then you go like, well, Richard Saucedo, his Hispanic, Tony Hall doing drill, Jim Elford with Madison Scouts, but it's still one of those I can count it on two hands kind of thing. But you're right, because when with Scouts this year, there's a concentrated effort to sort of, like you said, reach out and go, how do we help the community out? But not just, like we have to help them, and if they're not good, well, we have to help them be good, and that's what we're doing with Madison University, because when you assemble a staff for a drum corps, right? It's a business, it's a lot of money, and you want to get everything right, and when you're trying to consider underrepresented people for high profile roles, and you're like, well, who's writing drill that's out there that's of color or female or something like that, and your options are so limited. But you need to increase that pool, and I think that goes with what you're saying about reaching out a hand. We need to make the pool bigger so that the opportunities are better there for anybody in drum corps, whether they're corps directors. Because is it Seattle Cascades? I believe the corps director is African American.
Yes.
And so no, I don't consider myself a person of color. I think we fit in the BIPOC definition. I don't know how Latin people are. I'm brown. That's all I say. But no. I get you there. And you as a teacher, meaning a public school teacher, but you also live in the drum corps world. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the idea that DCI is now a country club activity. Do you feel that it's like that? And when I say country club, I mean, no matter what color you are, you got to have money to march drum corps.
Got to have some cash.
And if you look at the color of people, it's predominantly a white activity, right?
Yeah. And I grapple with that. This year I had a student from my own band who was African American who was actually going to march Spirit, and he was just so looking forward to getting out there, and of course it didn't happen.
Yeah.
When I marched, drum corps wasn't expensive. It wasn't expensive, but for my family it was expensive. So I ended up having to get sponsors.
Yeah.
So I knew what I had to do what I wanted to do, but it has become very, very how do I say isolated in terms of being able to access it for some as we've moved through the years.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we have the people who look at it as thinking that it's untouchable. There's no way I can do it.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, it's untouchable because there's no way that I can actually even remotely have a chance to do it in terms of affording it.
Right.
And I think that's a shame because we're missing out on some kids who could absolutely be stellar performers, and it's because they can't get a foot in the door.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the great things about what Eric Prince is doing. We've got this advocacy group that is talking about basically supporting the on the African American side and on the person of color, as well as the girls. As getting the ladies in there, recognition in there as well.
Right.
So hopefully, what we're trying to do will create some momentum and some funds that will allow students who would have probably not had a chance to get a foot in the door to be able to march in the Blue Devils, who has quite a few students of color in that corps.
Right.
But when they look like me, or they look like Eric, or they look like Alex or Tony, it's you get few and far between. And then if they do look like us, they're usually like star players.
Yeah.
Or they're soloists.
Yeah.
Or they're featured guard members. Make you think of Kurt Washington from Carolina Crown back in the early 2000s. So you look at that and go, you're right. Not early 2000s, but when Herbert marched.
Sure.
We need those bench players, as they say. We need those utility guys. We need the third trumpet. We need the not soloist mellophone. We need that you can be honest, we usually find people of color in our percussion sections.
Right. Yeah.
But also sometimes they're marching bass 5 or it's something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we usually see our guys in the battery sections. Mm-hmm. But in the color guard and in the winds, it's become kind of sparse.
Right.
Kind of sparse.
Yeah. I never have good segues out of this conversation when I talk to Alex or Tony, so I just kind of have to go, oh, okay, now I'm going to transition to something completely unrelated, so here we go. All right. For the folks listening to us at home and nowhere else because they are smart and are socially isolating, please describe in excruciating detail what shoes you are wearing.
I am in socks. But
they...
I took off. I took off my Nikes. I don't know the name of the Nikes though. I'm a pure Nike guy. I can't wear anything but Nikes on my feet.
All right. I'll allow it.
But I look at you and I feel inadequate. I mean, I'm looking at 30 shoes right now.
Oh,
30 pairs.
There's a little more than that, but thank you.
Well, yeah, I was trying to be,
Yes.
But my wife think I have like maybe 10 pairs of shoes, and she thinks that is just ludicrous.
Wow. Oh boy.
She just too many shoes. I'm like, I don't have that many shoes.
Do you own any Nike Michael Air Jordans?
I had this conversation with a kid a couple of weeks ago. I am a huge Jordan fan, and grew up loving him. Being a Carolina fan, it was awesome.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the money to pay for Jordans. They looked great.
Yeah.
I have never put a pair of Jordans on my feet.
Really? Wow.
Really?
Wow. That's
never
heavy.
put a pair of Jordans on my feet.
What shoe size are you in men's, Mark?
An athletic shoe, 15.
Oh my! Well, I'm basically half. I'm almost half your shoe size. So, I was going to say maybe it's something that's not expensive. A 15. Holy smoke!
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll start a GoFundMe to get Mark Hoskins his first pair of Jordans. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
What are your
Classic
favorite
Jordans too?
Oh, you want the expensive ones, the red, black, and white ones, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to sign up a couple. We'll do what drum corps kids do now and not work and just do GoFundMes and beg for money. So
GoFundMe, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Your brother up.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a weird question to ask everybody right now, but for the last 6 months, what's next for you, Mark? How's it going?
We started school virtually on Monday. And I'll be honest with you, I'm an old soul. It's been a hard sell for me. The virtual thing and just the not having that kinetic contact with students, being able to see them and say, fix your embouchure, take a better breath, or that phrasing's not good. We're trying to do these things over the computer. And, I appreciate all the things that are out there, and we're working so hard, and we're using smart music and trying to do this and that. It's not the same. Yeah. And I can't wait for the day that we're all well and we're able to be in front of the kids and do the things that we're accustomed to doing.
Yeah.
So that's my next step is to get through the weekend and relax a bit, but sort of kind of come back at this thing on Monday and see if I can be better.
For sure. Wow, yeah. Is there anything you want to plug? A mixtape, coffee? Tony was plugging his coffee brand, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I have been so isolated. We've been here as a family unit since, we've gone out, we've gone fishing. You've seen me on pictures on Facebook with Chris Romanowski. That's Chris and us, his family and my family. We don't mingle, but we get together. We don't mingle. It's kind of odd. We sort of kind of orbit around each other.
Yeah.
And the kids swim and they socially distance swimming. It's kind of crazy. And Chris and I have known each other since 1997. And of course, we want to hug up and dap, but we can't do that. So we're sitting on separate rocks on the lake front, sitting here fishing and talking.
Yeah,
we've just been isolated, man. We've been trying to stay safe and keep everybody healthy and get through all this crazy stuff.
Totally.
So I don't know if there is anything I can plug other than my Cowboys.
Oh God. We're going to edit that out. Oh, boy. Well, Mark, I usually lie to everyone, and this is a lie as well. It's been a pleasure to have you here today. Aside from your Cowboys stuff, you were an absolute delight. It was a lot of fun. I can only imagine, based on your Facebook posts, how many bags of popcorn kernels you have in your garage back there waiting to be popped. You're popping popcorn every day, man.
I am the Orville Redenbacher spokesman for popcorn. So, I as we talk today, I'm a vague person. So, the popcorn posts, they do mean something. Some people have to look into it a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
There's the stash. There is a stash.
There's a stash. What's your favorite brand of popcorn? What you got? Just Orville Redenbacher? Is that what it is?
You know what? If it tastes good, actually what is that brand they sell at Costco? It's like gluten-free, and it tastes like it's buttered already. It is excellent.
Oh, okay.
It's excellent.
Well,
I can't remember what the name of it is, but my wife, she actually got it for the first time when we would drive to Florida to take the kids to Disney. So we ended up getting this popcorn, and I'm like, man, what is this stuff? Did you pop it last night? No, I got it at Costco. So I'm plugging Costco.
Okay. All right. You're plugging Costco. You better than the Cowboys. That's fine. That's fine. I think I'll settle for you. Well, cool. Well, I guess do you have anything funny or witty to say to close the podcast out other than the Cowboys are good?
I'm a horrible joke. I'm a horrible joke teller, man. But I have great popcorn quips, so I don't know. And they have to come to me. I can't just make one up on the spot. Well, it has to germinate in my brain.
Okay. Well, you can post it in a week and a half when this episode drops. You can be like, oh, here we go. That's what I meant to say.
Is this one worthy of being listened to by hundreds of people?
Oh, I think it's required listening for anybody who loves popcorn, loves music, likes or hates the Cowboys. I'm pretty much everyone on this planet should listen to this episode.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I'm glad we finally got around to getting you on board, since you're a hard man to lock down. You're busy.
Yeah, it's been crazy. I feel like I really haven't done too much this summer though. It's just sort of kind of, things have just been odd.
Yeah.
I've done more fishing this year than I've done in the last 4 years combined. So.
But still no hunting.
Those
right?
kind of things. No hunting, man. I can't. I love Bambi. I can't shoot Bambi.
This episode of Sketchbook Podcast was recorded in Austin, Texas, and Marietta, Georgia, and was edited and produced by me, Daniel Montoya Jr. Our logo is created by John Suh of Purpose Designs, and our music is provided by Epidemic Sound. If you enjoy Sketchbook, tell a friend about the show or share a link on social media. You can rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts, and you might find your review featured on a future episode. Got questions, comments, suggestions, or concerns? Email us at sketchbookpodcast@gmail.com. It too could be featured on a future episode. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at SketchbookPod and join the Sketchbook community on Facebook at Sketchbook Podcast. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Sketchbook Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. Thanks for listening.